Hello and welcome to your 5th year in the MYP program. Your sophomore science class is chemistry. This video is going to introduce you to the class as well as to your summer assignment. The first thing you want to do is sign into Google Classroom. The code is listed on the slide, 2M54ZFW, and you're going to find a ton of resources on Google Classroom. We've put them all into one summer assignment document for you for now. You want to open that up, and in it you will find a link to 8 simple chemistry experiments. You can pick from these for your summer assignment, or if you wish, you can try to find something else you're interested in doing. If you decide to go that route, you have to reach out to me as soon as possible to make sure that you will get credit for doing something off of this list. The list contains a variety of sort of introductory experiments and some basic procedures for how to follow them. You have some options from kitchen chemistry to making bath bombs to experimenting with slime. All of them can be done from home. All of them have materials lists, and I am happy to talk over with you about alternatives for materials via Google Classroom. There are 2 documents that are nearly identical that you want to be aware of. The summer assignment template is what you are required to fill out. It is an outline of what a lab report in chemistry will entail. And what you'll see is there are a lot of parts to it. For now, I'm going to skip the blank version, the one that you fill out, and we're going to focus on the terms explained version. It's the same template, only I've added notes in the empty boxes so that you can, for your reference, so that you can take a look at them and come to me over Google Classroom or email with questions if the notes aren't helpful. You'll note, first of all, there are criterion A and criterion B. Both of these things are done before the experiment, so before you would do any of the actual data collection. Criterion A is where you identify the context. That basically means your background research and setting up the question. So you want to start by identifying your research question. What you'll find in the labs that are linked is they give you a tiny bit of background information and some procedures and some materials lists. What you want to do is really think about what question are you trying to answer. And there may be hints or there may be parts to it that you can find in the link, but don't be afraid to make the experiment your own. You don't have to follow their steps or their guidelines to the T. You do want to formulate a hypothesis in this section. That is, think about it in terms of an if, then, because statement. You want to talk about what do you think will happen and why do you think it will happen. For general topic, what you want to do is discuss the area of science that this experiment is exploring. And what that normally means is you want to find one other resource. Think about this, right? If there are 3 subsections to criterion A, think about each one of them should have at least a sentence and probably more like a paragraph. So your research question and a hypothesis, probably only 2 sentences, right? 1 sentence for each. Your general topic is probably going to be a paragraph, which may include information from another source. Your connection is a 3rd section, again, anywhere from a sentence to a paragraph on connecting or explaining how your research question connects to the topic you've identified. Now, criterion B is when you actually get into the steps you're going to take. Your repeatable method or your procedures needs to be very detailed. The ones they give you on the website are a little general. They give you an idea of the steps to take. You want to be much more specific than what they give. So if they have 8 steps as their procedures, your procedures might be 15 or even 20 steps. Include every little minute detail. And I recommend numbering that list and putting it in there. Your relevance to the research question can just be a sentence, but you do want to make sure you have that section. You want to explain how your method is going to produce an answer to the research question. So why is this method useful? For now, you get to skip sampling strategy because we will talk more about it throughout this school year and what the different sampling strategies are. But that is something I'm going to introduce as we move towards science fair. Finally, before you do any experiment, need to discuss the ethics and risks. That is, first and foremost, are there any materials that are dangerous to work with? Anything that is sharp or things such as glass that can be broken easily. You also need to discuss if any of the chemicals you're using are potentially hazardous. You also want to think about the ethical considerations of how you dispose of your waste. Is it going down the drain? Is it going into the trash? Any of those things. And most importantly, you do not want to perform any experiment on animals. You can experiment on plants if it's important to you, but for the sake of this summer project, I recommend just doing things with non-living test subjects. So criterion C and D is where we actually are collecting our data and analyzing it and then reflecting on the experiment and what it really means. Collected raw data simply means the data that you have collected without processing it. So raw data is literally just as you collected it. You can and you should have quantitative and qualitative data here if at all possible. Quantitative data is numbers. You normally collect that in a data table like the one shown. Qualitative data is using words and typically uses one or more of the 5 senses. After you've collected some data, you want to process that raw data. And processing it literally means doing some calculations or making graphs. You might calculate the average value for something, or you might graph your data in a way that makes the raw data a lot more visually accessible. Once you have some more visually accessible information or some processed information such as averages, you can analyze that data, which literally means to state what you found. Again, each one of these subsections is anywhere from a sentence to a paragraph, but you want to try, if there's multiple bullet points, you might want to think about there being one sentence or one part per bullet point. State what you found, identify trends or things that you see in the processed data. The difference between your analysis and your conclusion is that your analysis is very factual. Your conclusion is what can you draw from it? You're allowed to start reading between the lines here. Did you answer your research question? And if so, what did you find? If not, why not? An important note, a lot of failed experiments are some of the best experiments I've ever seen. And if you did not get meaningful results, you can and probably will still get an A as long as you attempt each section. So don't be afraid if your experiment's a total flop. That's totally fine. Can you talk about your hypothesis? Was it supported or refuted? Or can you not really talk about it? And then can you discuss any logical conclusions about what you did see? Ultimately, if you can talk about what happened and why it happened, you're in good shape. Criterion D is a little bit more reflective. You want to discuss what you found and put it in terms of the topic or the background research you did back in criterion A. Was what you found useful in any way? Or even did the experiment really answer the question you set out to ask? Again, it's okay if the answer is no for right now. That's part of the fun of doing science experiments, is just seeing where it takes you. And then maybe later on realizing like, oh, that's not where I expected to end up. Totally fine. Strengths, weaknesses, and limitations are just as they sound. You want to identify one of each for your experiment. And there are some details listed there. I'm not going to go through right now. A modification is how could you change your experiment to address one of the weaknesses or limitations that you identified. And finally, you do want to think about and write a short section about how does all of this apply to society? If you did an experiment on slime, why is slime so interesting? What makes it worth studying? And it is worth studying. There's a reason why you can find a million different websites on how to make slime from home. Can you talk about why it's so interesting or why it's valuable? So, an important thing to remember is you are not alone in this. You can message me through Google Classroom, you can send me an email, and if you keep an eye out, we will be hosting some Zoom sessions that are optional, but are there to support you. So there'll be like office hours where I'm just available to answer questions or give you guys guidance if you're stuck somewhere. Maybe you're stuck on step 1, picking a topic, choosing a lab. Maybe you're stuck on step 5. Wherever you are, I can help you. With that, I want you to realize that the earlier you start, the more I can help you. If you start the week before school starts, I can't help you very much. And this is an experiment that I would anticipate you guys spending somewhere between 5 and 10 hours on throughout the whole summer. That is, if you're efficient, you could probably get it done in a total of 5 hours, but you want to break that up. And I wouldn't even recommend breaking it up into 5 days and doing it 1 hour each day. I would break it up over weeks. I would spend an hour on it next week or something like that, something soon. Get started with thinking about what you want to research. Find a background resource. Check in with me about some questions you have, right? If you spend an hour on it per week, you'll finish by the end of the summer, and you'll probably finish early. Don't take on large assignments like this with the idea that you're going to do them in one night. Pulling all-nighters is not fun, and it doesn't lead to good products. It doesn't lead to good grades, and it doesn't lead to good learning. So take the time to break this into chunks, do it section by section. Understand that maybe one day you might get a couple of those subsections done. Another day you might only get one done or even partially done, and that's okay. Those small steps are the steps to victory and the steps to a successful summer assignment. I look forward to talking with you guys throughout the summer. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you all stay safe. Talk to you soon.